Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Equalizer. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, I think it's so interesting because I would have thought the entire episode I thought would have been fully connected with like the guns at the beginning of the episode, but it's like, because I thought like, oh, well, it's more so like that this bike rider, part of like a bike club, kind of almost seen as a gang, T-Bone ended up being set up as a person who like had this van, and because it was like no one's gonna ask questions of why there's just a van out in the open gun, like, because if you're gonna traffic guns, you'd sell them. Why would you just like flood them on the street without? To me, that makes no sense. But it's like, right, they just did a terrible job. I guess they weren't trying to make sense of it. I was just like, right, try to get as many guns on the street, try and get T-Bone to take the fall for it. Interesting enough, the person that came to Robin about this case is Storm, T-Bone's girlfriend, who is that actress was one of the leads in the 4400 reboot. This episode went in many different directions I wasn't expecting. Well, because I figured T-Bone was innocent, and obviously I think the episode title is called The One Percenter, so you kind of knew where things were kind of going in this episode, especially when we kind of get into like the political element of it, like the Bass family versus Councilman Moore, where it's just like, right, because Councilman Moore was like, oh yeah, like the Bass family's got some like dark secrets and stuff like that, because Councilman Moore has his connections to this, the Brooklyn Disciples is the name of the biker club. But like I said, I'm so surprised with the way this went down, because at first it's like, okay, T-Bone's innocent, but obviously he's running, because we found out, yeah, he has a criminal record, but he went to the Marines, was honorably discharged, came back, he started this club, and it's like, yeah, there's bad apples here and there, but they are a group that's kind of done a lot of good for the community as a whole. And so it's like, okay, so there's this, then there's like the whole Buffalo Joe beef, but then you find out that's because Storm is like a goddaughter to him, and not just him, and it's him and Councilman Moore. The thing in the Disciples was like, yo, no one gets with Storm, and he broke that rule. But Buffalo Joe's like, I would never set him up, because it's like, our issue is personal. It would have never escalated to something of this ill, because it doesn't just affect T-Bone. It just demonizes the group even more. But it's kind of messed up of Buffalo Joe to try and get, like, obviously, he was just mad because Robin hustled him. It's like, yo, if I sink this 8 pocket, if I don't, you get this money. If I do, you're going to tell me all this stuff about, because she's trying to help, but it's that culture of like, no, we're in this. We look after each other. We try to fix this. We don't need outsiders' help. But also, I gotta admit, when Ludacris kicked in, I was like, oh my god. I was like, I have not heard this song in so long. It's one of those things where you kind of take for granted Ludacris's discography, because you're like, man, he's got some damn bangers that I haven't heard in so damn long. But I'm like, dude, legitimately made me want to go like, man, I'm gonna go listen to some of the older like Ludacris stuff that I haven't heard in, like, some of the stuff I haven't heard since high school and middle school. It's wild, but just hearing that song kick in, I mean, it's a perfect song to hit with that scene too, where like Robin's like, all right, got the pull stick behind her. He's like, all right, let's go, let's get to it. And then I was like, oh, you fucked up now. You have fucked up now. It's also interesting too, because I mean, I guess it makes sense. Like, if you old school enough, like Buffalo Joe, you know exactly who Dante's dad is. Like, oh yeah, Big Ben's son. He's like, yo, but I'm my own man. And Councilman was like, no, I've looked into him. He's a straight shooter. So that's the sad thing, that no matter where he goes, in a lot of communities, he will never be able to like escape the shadow of his father. Not the biggest thing, but it's just like a small seed there, where it's just like, he will always, like, his father will always cast a large shadow. And once again, that's why Dante was always such the straight and narrow person he was. He saw things so black and white, and now he doesn't just see the shades of gray. He balances in those shades of gray with Robin, Harry, and Mel. Like, he's got to be fully molded part of the team now. So it is that situation of, I just thought that it's a small thing, but I think it speaks volumes. The fact is that kind of got implemented in the episode. The way things were going, like I said, from the beginning, I figured like, this would be like kind of like the political move that it was, like framing T-Bone and everything. But obviously he wants to get revenge because he thinks this is the only way he's going to be able to clear his name. Because for him, it's like, I'm a black man. Like, ain't no one with my history. That's all anyone's ever going to see. They're not going to listen to my truth. So this is the only way I can get the truth out there. So initially, when we find out the truth about, like, okay, T-Bone was bouncing at a club, and Camilla, I believe her name was, who also, like, she quit that day too, was like, this is what went down. I was like, oh, this guy was, getting handsy with a girl, and he was drunk or like on drugs, bringing all these prostitutes. I was like, Councilman Bass, isn't it? And it turned out to be him. I was like, I figured as much. I thought it was actually kind of a neat, like, little switch up, because like like I said, because of the name of the episode, but also like just because of the nature of that family, you're like, oh, obviously his mom had to come in and clean it up. That was especially true when when at the end, when T-Bone was trying to get the guy to confess. He's like, all right, I did everything I did. I was trying to keep everyone quiet because I wanted to like try and like save my marriage, so my wife wouldn't know the truth about like me hiring prostitutes and drugs and stuff like that. But no, he wasn't the one behind framing T-Bone. I was like, oh, it's got to be his mom then. And it super turned out not to be his mom. I guess that's one of the things about the Bass family is like, right, you're rich and powerful. That name, I mean, that's why Councilman Bass is running alone. And like, that's why he's able to run it all, is because he's just, like following in the legacy, because his father was like, even Dante was like, yeah, his father was considered like one of the great mayors of the city. So, but when it's all said and done, the person actually behind it was Leo. And it's like, oh, wow, that's actually kind of sad. Because even Councilman Moore is like, wow, I didn't know I let like a wolf into my hen house. And it's like, yeah, I didn't see that one coming, it being Leo. Like, I mean, once again, it's also that thing of like, once again, that crime drama trope thing of like, oh, it's usually the suspect's going to be the person that you don't always suspect immediately, but it's also going to be the person who's popped up at least once or twice, and he's just been a background person for him to be responsible, because Councilman Bass's father hired him to be the one that like so he handled a lot of dirty work for the Bass family, covered up stuff, paid people off type of thing, and Leo still has access to it. So I guess that's why he started working with Councilman Moore, just to put himself in a position where he knows how to strike at Councilman Moore and to take advantage of everything, have insider information to be able to use to dismantle it. So I don't know if Councilman Bass and his mom like had no idea about it. Leo was the one with the guns and everything, so they had no association. But I don't even know if they knew about Leo in general. I don't think they did, because that was such a like shadow thing of like, oh yeah, like he handles like stuff on the side and stuff. So luckily, I think it was important that Dante was the one who ended up talking T-Bone down, because it's like a thing of like, yeah, we come from like we're not exactly the same. We haven't had the same upbringing, but he's like, I understand. You do not do this, T-Bone, because if you do this, all you're going to do is going to feed the like narrative that's already been created, because this is not how you get your truth out there. Let me help you do it the right way. The fact is that don't become another statistic, And luckily, and I love that he's like holding on to T-Bone. He's like, everyone put your guns down. He's making sure not to move away, because if he does, he doesn't want to give anyone an opportunity or an excuse to end up kind of shooting him. So luckily, it all worked out in the end. Leo went down for his crimes. Obviously, Councilman Bass got exposed for all the stuff that he's been doing, but also all of T-Bone's charges were dropped. So I had to look this up to kind of confirm it. Because I've always been under this, it never clicked we're in the third season of the show, and it never clicked in my head. I was like, wait, Queen Latifah's big into motorcycles, isn't she? Like, I never really realized that, because it's one of those things you hear years and years ago, and I just kind of forget about it, because it's like, that's why I think the character of Robin is so, like, motorcycle-centric. I mean, yes, it helps be discreet when she's, like, gathering intel or following people, sure, but I think it is a situation of that world is, the motorcycle world is something that like it's very personal to her, and I think that's why. Because I even was I read a little like excerpt or something saying like, right, some of the like stuff on the bikes is her riding because she does have like experience riding bikes. But I think it's also like she can't do even if she wanted to probably do more. There's probably a limit to what she can do because it's like right, you're like there's like insurance and stuff like that. So it's like no, there's stuff that has to be done by a stunt coordinator. We can't afford like it not to be. But it's like some of the stuff she does it herself. So I thought that was pretty dope because like I think that world of bikes and stuff is important to her because once again, this was something I heard years ago from my mom. This was back when I was little, and it's always just been in the back of my mind. It's just one of those things I've heard, and I never really looked into it. Was like her brother like died like if I remember correctly, didn't she used to keep like a chain around her neck, and it had like I think a bike key at the end of it? I want to say once again, this is one of those things like I said, I heard years ago. I never looked into. I also don't want to like dive deep into someone's situation, especially when it's something like that. Like it's like that's not my business. Like even if she's been open about it, like I just don't want to deep dive into someone's history and their personal. Like I'm like that with any celebrity and actors in general. It feels weird, like knowing so much about someone's life when it's like I don't know you. I feel weird. So that's why I'm like, I don't know if it's like because of her association with her brother that she's into bikes, or maybe that's always just been her thing. But either way, it just feels like this episode in particular was almost, I mean, just a commentary of just kind of like, right, this bike club kind of demonized in a certain way when in actuality it has no gang activity. It's actually a pillar to the community, but also the motorcycle riding aspect. I feel like that is, I don't know if that was kind of specifically written for Queen Latifah in that regard because of like the bike angle of just, I mean, something and maybe it's something she's kind of really pushed for because like maybe it's like, yeah, because of motorcycles are such a, a part of her life that she really likes them. So she wanted to incorporate that even more into like a mainline storyline of the episode, the show. So maybe once again, that's maybe me reading too much into it, but also Dante and Robin, it's like, go ahead and get a room already. It's like him rolling up on her, and she's like, I clocked you about 4 blocks back. He's like, oh, I'm slipping. Got her the donuts and everything. He's like, oh, can I see you later? She's like, I don't know. Can you? I'm like, stop it, you two. Jesus. Oh, the tension. You could cut it with a knife, and how they're all like smiles around each other. It's like, you two are so goddamn adorable. Stop it already. Jeez, I love it. I even love, Robin at the very end gets her like kind of an honorary member of the Brooklyn Disciples, and they call her Real Deal, which I'm sure Harry's probably a little upset about because he wants a nickname. He's like, oh, how about H-Doll? And Mo was like, ooh, no. She's like, yeah, you can't really give yourself your own nickname. He's like, yeah, you can't. Or can you? She's like, no, you can't. You can't. So it's like, okay. So he doesn't get his nickname, but she does. Real Deal. I love that. That's actually really dope. I also love, and it's like a little thing in this episode is that Robin, D, and Vi are trying to watch a show called, what was it, The Eliminator? And I was like, at first I was like, that's not what I think it's supposed to be. And then when you hear the voiceover near the end of the episode when they're watching a TV show, I was like, wait. It's like, it's supposed to be like a weird, like funny, like nod to the original show. Cause they were like, oh, this storyline of like someone went off the bridge. They better not kill so-and-so. I'm like, I wonder, is that supposed to be like, is that just supposed to be like a parody, or is that actually applying a storyline from the actual original Equalizer TV show that they are kind of parodying / referencing in the actual, that's what I don't know. It's something I'd have to look into. Also, that D was like, oh yeah, she looked up all the spoilers online, and it's like, whoa, why would you do that? Oh my god, D, that's, who does that? I was like, people do. I get it, but I'm also like, man, that's so weird. Don't do that. Oh, because Vi was like, no, don't tell me anything. Don't you dare spoil this for me. I love that also because the episode got interrupted, which I feel like that's almost like this, it's this super meta thing because like, oh, this show you want to watch gets interrupted by like, something like big or newsworthy ended up happening. So it kind of interrupts the show that you're trying to watch. I'm like, oh, that happens. Like, especially on networks like CBS, like, CBS, NBC, like these are networks that, yeah, that happens from time to time. It's like, oh yeah, it's like something news breaking happens and it kind of interrupts your show, or your show ends up getting pushed because something went a little long. I don't know. It just seemed a little meta to me. But also Robin being kind of responsible. It's like, you had something to do with this, right? Because it was like the Bass family stuff, like going down, and she's just covering her face with the plate, like, ooh, sorry about that. Didn't mean for it to interrupt our show together. I also love that Dee had because I figured, I was like, well, you're having technical issues. I was like, why hasn't anyone suggested Harry? He's like, oh, she went and did it. Dee went and did it herself to get Harry because no one else could figure out the TV situation. I'm like, come on, we don't call. She's like, she's like, you don't call Harry in for that type of stuff. It's like, but Harry's, I'm sure, happy to do it because it's like, hey, it's something. He kind of just ran her through something, on how to fix it herself. It's not like he came to do it himself. She just called him up. It's like, right, you have access to a really smart techie dude, so why not take advantage of him? He's part of the family anyway. It's like calling up our Uncle Harry, for help. That's all that really is. So I thought that was pretty dope. But this episode also introduced the continuation of the storyline that I figured things were going to go down this route, is Miles having questions. And even Robin's admitted she's been avoiding him because it's like, right, she doesn't know how to really talk to him about everything. So he already knew about her CIA history and everything, but now it's like, oh, I thought you were done with that. Now bring a gunshot victim. Now this dirty bomb situation. What's going on? And so she can't. Vi says that he has every right as Dee's father to know the truth, and it's like, that's true, but it's also Robin should be able to kind of tell him in her own time, because it's like she has to try and figure it out, because I don't think telling him immediately is going to help, because it is a situation of the moment she tells him the truth, what's going to happen is he's going to be like, we're going to end up where we are right now regardless. Even if Robin had told him the truth, I think he's going to be like, no, our doors are in danger. You're going to have to stop doing what you're doing. And it's like, you're asking Robin to stop helping people. And because it's like, you have a family at home, you're dragging them in it. I mean, and even Robin admits later on, she's like, how can I promise that I'm going to keep Dee and them safe? Because it's like, right, yeah, they took me, but they easily could have taken Vi or Delilah with the whole Quinn situation. And especially, she probably feels even more guilt because she's the one that put herself in that position where Quinn was coming after her. Like, she was dead set on getting revenge for Bishop. So I think that probably adds layers to any guilt she has over that situation. But yeah, Miles now wants full custody, and I figured this was going to get ugly. It's like, and he's like, right, if you won't tell me what's going on, you're going to have to tell the courts. And she's like, how do I explain all of this to the courts? I guess she's going to have to talk to Dante about how to handle that. I guess legally you can make the situation of, hey, she's a consultant because it is kind of official yet unofficial, because the DA last season kind of made it more official of hey, we're working together type of situation. So there's wiggle room where you could tell the truth, but also lie. If they can make it more official, but that'd be lying to Miles, and you putting. I mean, Dee already was in the position of already having to lie to her dad, but now it's the truth coming out eventually, so it kind of doesn't have to put her in that position anymore. But Robin definitely did. It's no, we're hatching it out, because she doesn't want to put Dee in the middle of that. Because if she says yeah, your dad's trying to get full custody, it's she's not trying to cause issues, but because Robin knows right, that's not going to help the issue. Me making Dee feel like she's being torn between, she's already felt like she's already being torn between us having to keep my secrets from her dad, and it's I can't put even more on her, because it's going to be very manipulative to be yeah, your dad she's going to have no choice but to bring it up eventually when the truth comes out, but her immediately trying to handle things on her own before Dee has to find out is what I think is what's going to be I think is how Robin's handling this. So that is going to be complicated going forward. Like I said, even if Robin tells Miles the truth, I still don't think it's going to sit well with him. He's probably going to ask her to stop doing what she's doing because it's drawing too much danger. But it's right, bring him into the fold about like, but there's a protective net around her because both sides of Robin's life have like kind of now melded, the good and bad of it. The bad is it like her family could get swept up in whatever, everything that she's looking into, the people she's helping, but that's an important thing. She's helping a lot of people, but also she has a unit around her. She has Mel, she has Harry, and she has Dante, who all have the purposes of having not only her back, but Delilah and Vi's back as well. So they're not in this, it's not just her alone. She has, like I said, a unit behind her helping, with that situation. So either way, it's definitely going to be interesting to see where the next episode takes us with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.